Welcome back, Francesco, Positive Psychology Directory. The video of the day is Dr. Ryan Niemiec. Ryan is VIA's Educational Director. Let's discover together what Ryan does at VIA Institute. In your opinion, what's the best or most interesting research in positive psychology?
Well, I'm a little biased, but I'm going to say that it's the work with character strengths. And the reason I say that is because for many years now, we've been talking about how character strengths is really the backbone of positive psychology. To take a phrase that Marty Seligman once said, that it's the core of positive psychology, is which all the other areas of positive psychology can stem from and build off of or correlate with or cause. So there's a connection with anything in positive psychology is connected with character strengths, whether that be mindfulness or flow or positive emotions, positive relationships, and so on. So therefore, I would have to say one of the most important developments is the character strengths work. And within that area, positive psychology practitioners are particularly interested in interventions. And the intervention that's been most successful across research studies, across cultures, is the intervention to use one of your signature strengths in a new way. And so this intervention is very simple, where people go to take the VIA survey is step one, viacharacter.org, and then they get their results and they choose one of their highest strengths, so one of their highest 5 or 7 strengths that comes out in the free report, and then their task is to use one of those strengths in a new way each day. So if their highest strength is curiosity, then today they might try a new food, and tomorrow they might ask a new colleague one question. If their highest strength is social intelligence, then they might go out of their way to have a conversation with a new person. So it's finding different ways to expand one's signature strengths. So I think that's one of the most exciting developments in this field. So a signature strength is, we can see it as a strength that's essential or core to who we are. That's the most important criterion for understanding a signature strength, according to research. That the strength is really essential and core to just who you are as a human being. So when people take the VIA survey, oftentimes there's those strengths that are in their top 5, top 7 are their signature strengths. The VIA survey does a pretty good job at being able to recognize the highest strengths that way. Now, there are other ways to describe a signature strength. So we could say the strength is very easy to use. It comes very naturally to the person. They're happier when they're using it. They use the strength across many different settings, at home, at work, with their family, social life, and so on. So that would be another way to think about it. Hope, love, curiosity, appreciation of beauty and excellence, fairness, honesty, and perspective. I think I've gone beyond 5. And I've taken the VIA survey once a year for many years now, and those are the strengths that always cluster toward the top for me. So what does that mean? So if my highest strength is curiosity, for me it means I'm very interested in exploring new things. Whenever something is new, I tend to gravitate toward it. I'm interested in exploring that new thing. I'm always somebody that has to try new restaurants every time I go out, always trying new foods, enjoying meeting new people, enjoying traveling around the world to experience new things, new cultures. So that's my curiosity propelling me toward exploring and toward novelty and toward different things. My love strength is the strength that helps me to really express a sense of warmth and genuineness to my family, to coworkers. So when people say, "Oh, that Ryan, he's a nice guy," it's not, for me. It's not kindness, actually, which is kind of more of a middle to lower strength for me, doing kind of extra favors, but more of that sense of love. That it's coming from a place of kind of deep care for that person, for that family member, for society. Hope, I'll say as well, because that's always in my top 2 strengths. Hope is my strength that helps me to look toward the future and really drive so much of what I do. It's why I'm doing this work with character strengths, because it brings me hope for the world, that everybody in the world can benefit from knowing their strengths a little bit more, using their strengths a little bit more, finding ways to express their best self in the world. And that's the hope that I get whenever I teach on character strengths, whenever I put out a new article or book. I'm doing that driven by a sense of hope that it's going to help people in some way.
Do you think a strength can be a weakness sometimes? What do you think about this point?
Yeah, it's a real common question, an important question to think about. When we look at the 24 strengths and the way that they're measured by the VIA survey, all of them are strengths, and they're all in all human beings. So we have used all of these to some degree, maybe even a little bit today and yesterday and the day before. So they're all, in that sense, they're all strengths. So it's actually incorrect to call them weaknesses, because they're all capacities within us that can be grown and used and nurtured. What we like to think of them is we have some strengths that are more strong, so our signature strengths, and some strengths that are kind of lower in our profile that we don't use them as much. So they're kind of lesser strengths in that way. So that's kind of the first response to the question, is that if I've noticed so many times, and this is actually for leaders in positive psychology, when they start to say, here's my weakness, my 24th strength is a weakness, or my 22nd strength is a weakness, that it sets them on a trajectory of never paying attention to that strength, or of, gosh, it's such a weakness of mine, it's a defect in me, so therefore I don't have it and I can't do anything with it, so forget about it. And I think that's a mistake, because again, we can build up any of the 24. Now, all that said, so that's all the most important stuff I would say about that question. But also, I would say that our strengths can lead us to problems. So if we use our strengths too much, it can cause a problem. So is that a weakness? Yeah, maybe that could be a weakness. So the word weakness can apply when we start to use our strengths and it impacts a relationship in a harmful way, or it impacts us in a harmful way. So I can use too much love in a particular situation and come across too touchy-feely or too kind of emotional to somebody, and then that person might perceive that to be a weakness in that situation. Or I can overuse my hope strength and actually take on too many projects, because I'm so hopeful that I can do all these things, try to help people in all these different ways, that I spread myself too thin and I can't really accomplish this core task because I'm too busy trying to do so many things. So is that a weakness? I don't know. I like to think of it more as an overuse of the strength instead of a weakness. But different words apply and help people in different ways.
Talking more about strength, are there any strengths there that lead to a happy life?
Yeah, so there's two pathways that the research so far has been clear in terms of the character strengths, work, and happiness. I mean, there's many pathways, but two that are quite strong in the research. So one is that if we use one of our signature strengths in a new way, that it can lead to lasting happiness. And that's been shown across many studies. And so that means any of the 24. So it could be humility, it could be self-regulation, it could be creativity, it could be critical thinking, judgment, any of them. Just using more of yourself, putting yourself authentically into the world. The other pathway to happiness that research is finding is that there are certain strengths that are more correlated with happiness. And those strengths that are most correlated with happiness are zest, hope, curiosity, love, and gratitude. And researchers have even looked at, okay, so in study after study, these are shown to be most connected with happiness. So if we actually target those strengths, would it actually cause happiness too, not just a correlation? And in one study done a few years ago, it found that they do actually cause happiness as well. And other intervention studies on certain strengths have found that too. So we have reason to believe that there's a strong connection between character strengths and happiness. And if we take that a step further and look at not just happiness, but look at a flourishing life, so a life in which the person has very strong mental and social well-being is the way flourishing is usually defined. Their character strengths again are the backbone of that theory. Marty Seligman has put forth that theory that there's five independently assessed and intervention laden pathways to happiness. As you know, positive emotions, engagement, meaning, positive relationships, and achievement. And then he articulates that it's the character strengths that are the pathways to each of those, so that we can move toward greater flourishing when we are using our strengths. That helps us to experience positive emotions, more engagement with what we're doing, and so on.
Right. Tell us what actually you're doing now. What are you working on? Something exciting, or your recent research, or?
Yeah, well, each day there's a new thing. So we'll come back tomorrow, and there'll be another new thing that is exciting. You know, one of the things that amazes me at VIA is we have these weekly team meetings with our core team of 5 people, and every week there's so many new projects that are coming up that that we get involved with, and sometimes they amount to something, sometimes they don't. But so yeah, there's always exciting things. I would say the thing that's kind of most top of my mind at this moment in time is I happen to be trying to finish up a book, and so the book I'm working on is pretty similar to our topic here. It's character strengths in practice. I don't have the exact title yet, but it's all about the interventions around character strengths in positive psychology, and how to really have what's called a strength-based practice. A lot of people say I'm strength-based, but there isn't really kind of one way of defining that. So I'm trying to really articulate what that really means, and then lay out step-by-step interventions to help people to boost happiness, meaning, well-being, and so on. So that book is actually due in about 10 days for me, and I'm on track to pretty much finish it at that point, to the publisher. And then we'll, of course, back and forth with the publisher for several months before it actually gets published. The plan is for kind of early 2017. So that's the exciting thing, and it's people have been asking for a long time that we need a practice book with character strengths. We have a scholarly text, the Chris Peterson and Marty Seligman VIA classification book that came out in 2004, 12 years ago, and so we need a way to apply that. And we haven't really, the science hadn't really been there until now to be able to put together something that is deeply practical around working with these strengths. And so, so what I'm putting together isn't the final answer. I'm sure it'll have to be updated many times and improved, but it'll be a good starting point, hopefully, for practitioners in business, education, psychology, coaching, helping professions.
In your opinion, what's the most interesting application of positive psychology?
Well, the signature strengths in new ways one, but let me so I don't just keep repeating that one. Let me share another exercise that was recently found in a study to actually cause calling in life for people. So a lot of people in life are kind of just going through the motions with their job, with their work. That's a bit foreign to us in positive psychology, because so many of us, like you, Francesco, and me, are doing things that we're so passionate about. We love it, and it's almost like it's like a calling for us. But it's amazing. As I talk to my own family members, as I talk to friends and people outside of VIA, people are just going through the motions so often with their job. That means that these people don't really have that deeper sense of calling for what they're doing and feeling like they're meant to be doing that work, and like the work is an extension of their identity or who they are. So researchers in positive psychology and other fields are particularly interested in this topic of calling. And what one set of researchers did is they had workers write out their top 7 VIA character strengths. So after taking the VIA survey, their top 7. And then they had them write out in another column their main work tasks that they do every day. So might be filing papers, it might be leading a team meeting, it might be having a phone call with a customer, it might be typing in numbers on an Excel file, whatever those tasks are. And then the next task or the next step of the intervention was to really connect the two. So for the each subject to look at how can I bring each of my signature strengths to each work task. And so if my work task is filing papers, maybe I can use my curiosity strength to be interested in one word on each page. Or maybe I can use my appreciation of beauty and excellence and appreciate the excellence of how something was written or how things are arranged. So the idea is to somehow align your best strengths with whatever your task is. And they found that that task elevated the workers' happiness and also their sense of calling for what they're doing when compared with a control group. So that's a new study that's in a new intervention that's particularly exciting that just came out.
I want to jump to the opposite question. And do you think is anything negative, or what's the biggest negative in positive psychology?
The biggest negative about positive psychology?
Yes.
I'm not sure how strong positive psychology has been at making bridges to other disciplines, to other fields. I mean, certainly business people have found positive psychology, and teachers have found positive psychology. But I wonder about in some cognitive scientists have found positive psychology, some neuroscientists, and so on. But I wonder about the reverse, where positive psychology finds those other fields. Because if you were to look in the field of management, the field of organizational psychology, organizational industrial psychology, the vast majority of those people know nothing about positive psychology and the science. We in positive psychology tend to think, oh, well, we know appreciative inquiry, and so we know something about positive organizational scholarship, and so, gosh, there's this amazing synergy between business and positive psychology. But that's kind of just in our little circle, But in general, kind of what I'm learning, and I'm not a businessman, but this is just one example. The vast majority of industrial organizational psychologists either don't know or don't care about the positive psychology stuff. And I'm again being a little general about how I say that, but so I think that there's a lot more bridges to be made across disciplines, to the hard sciences, to lay people, and so on. Not to say that people aren't making those bridges, not to say that there isn't amazing connections happening across disciplines, but I think it's people finding positive psychology rather than positive psychology finding other people and other fields.
Ryan, what do you think we can do as a field to address the main critics about positive psychology?
Well, it's keeping to our roots. And the roots of positive psychology is science and is putting forth good research. So that's what the whole point of it was, because before the year 2000 or so, there had not been kind of an umbrella for all of this work, where there had been scattered research on various topics like altruism and empathy and gratitude and other things. And positive psychology has kind of brought it all together. But we need to not allow the practice to get too far ahead of the science. So we need to stay close to our roots with science, put out good research, and even get better at communicating that research. And that can inform the practice.
Now, academics are actually, they're not aligned with what's actually happening right now in positive psychology in reality. For example,
it's definitely true. I mean, it kind of academia and the field of psychology. We always say at VIA that they're the last to take on positive psychology, even though it was born in psychology and born in academia. That positive psychology was born, that way through Marty's work at APA. But yeah, and the people that take it on quickest are the schools and teachers and a lot of businesses, managers, and then coaches. So yeah, I mean, of course, there's exceptions. There's obviously a really growing field of academics interested in positive psychology. So we're not talking about them, and that number across countries is quite impressive, and the number of countries involved, and so it is growing, I believe. But yeah, it's definitely not universal across all academia. I mean, some people still wonder, is it a hard enough science? That's the critique that psychology has always gotten. Is it? It's more of a soft science. It's not like physics or chemistry, where it's a very hard science that way. So yeah, I guess it remains to be seen. And so that's why actually some people, and actually people in Australia, really are big on reframing positive psychology as the science of well-being instead of positive psychology. I remember talking with Joe, positive psychology in Melbourne.
Joe Mitchell.
And what's that?
Joe Mitchell.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. She's one of those people that was talking about how really she refers to it more as the science of well-being, and so we'll see if psychology even retains its name or not. But
so where is Ryan Niemiec in 5 years?
Okay, in 5 years.
How do you see yourself?
Well, I see myself in Cincinnati, where I am right now. Who knows if that's going to be true or not? No one knows. But I would be here with my family. I have 3 kids that are 5 years and under. So, and my wife and I would be here and growing, not growing more people, but growing those 3 people we have. And then professionally, I'd be doing some things that are similar, like hopefully writing probably about a book a year and making connections with people around the world, researchers and practitioners, and doing keynotes at conferences. So all those same things. But I think what might be a little different 5 years from now is that the world of kind of online delivery of material. So online presentations, remote presentations to different places. I see that as becoming wider and wider and more robust, with more and more technological capabilities, and really the ability to reach tens of thousands of people in one presentation. I don't know if we'll quite be there in 5 years, but I think that's where things are headed. That would be kind of one of my predictions.
So, yes. What's your view about positive psychology interventions working online?
Well, yeah. So so let me tell you what I think, and I can tell you what others think. So I am a fan of online positive psychology interventions. I think it's a wonderful way to deliver material to people. I think it's going with the zeitgeist in our culture, and it's a way to get publications done and out there and communicate the positive psychology science quickly and efficiently. Whereas the traditional way of going through non-online platforms is just far slower. It could take many years. I've seen it, and many years for one intervention study to be published. Yeah. Whereas in online, if you have the right platform, and there's some researchers like in character science that have the right platform, and they could churn out a study in a matter of months and then get it published, several months later. And so it could take far less time. So I'm a fan of that for positive psychology interventions. I think we need both. So I don't think it should be the only way to study and to deliver online exercises. Now, I think there are critics. I think some of the hard scientists, which I'm not, but people that all they do is run studies and run the science, and very academic focused people at certain universities. I think they're more critical of online interventions and saying that they're not as strong and not true to real life, and lots of critiques that way. So that's why I think we need both.
So I mean, like positive psychology in China, is it something that's happening, or it's a half of the population? Like we're trying to get more and more people involved, knowing about the benefits about positive psychology.
Yeah. Well, I can't necessarily speak exactly to China, other than just some of my connections with people in China. Like I know there's a character strengths and virtues researcher named Wenji Duan, if I'm pronouncing the name right there, who's published several studies on virtues and on character strengths. Even looked at the connection between resilience and character strengths, and finding a good connection between resilience and character strengths among natural disaster survivors of different natural disasters in China. I know Timothy So is another major researcher that's been doing a lot of great work in studying happiness with Felicia Huppert and Marty Seligman and so on. But I've not had the privilege of sort of touring China and really getting a sense for all the energy and what's going on there. I know they've had a couple positive psychology conferences in recent years, in positive psychology and education and others. So definitely good things are happening, but I don't have a sense for how that is per capita for all the people there. And one other thing I know, I'm just speaking little snippets of things that I know about positive psychology in China. Another is there's this school called the Shanghai American School in Shanghai, and they have implemented some very strong character strength programming and interventions with their teachers and parents and students. And we've had the privilege of connecting with several of those teachers and people. And there's even a great video that was made on how to bring character strengths into or how they brought character strengths into that school, and bringing it forth to some of the kids and the parents. And so it's a kind of a nice montage of different interviews from different people. That's on the VIA Institute website if you're interested in it. So yeah, those are a few little snippets of things that I know about what's going on in China. Certainly we would know, I'd have to look it up, I don't have it memorized, but the top 5 or 7 character strengths among the Chinese people so far. So that would be something, we can look up the data on really any country and see, what are the highest strengths and lowest strengths of people in that particular country. And I know where you're at in Australia right now. I do happen to know the Australian highest strengths, because they're the same as those that are highest in the United States. And those strengths are fairness, judgment, critical thinking, kindness, I think curiosity, honesty. I believe those round out the top strengths.
And also I think beer.
What was that?
Beer.
Yeah. 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 Certainly, that would be we'll call that a resource for people. So. There's different strength categories, talents and skills, and we call one of them resources. So beer could certainly be a good resource for people. That could be a strength. Yeah. It's a social lubricant, so that taps into positive emotions, and absolutely. We could get into the topic of favorite beers if you like. The best Australian beers, or Italian beers, or American beers.
So your favorite free time you're spending watching movies, and you're watching positive psychology movies. Are there such movies which I didn't know about it?
Yeah. I've been a long time movie fan, and some of the days before I had kids, I would watch 4 movies a day and kind of study them. And I had my computer would often be open, or I'd have a little notepad next to me, or I'd have like a light pen in the movie theater, and so I'd be taking notes or typing notes during these movies. And so I accumulated this huge database that I would kind of write certain things about. So I'd write the key themes of the movie, or certain plot developments, writing about the character strengths in each movie, other positive psychology elements. And so I created that habit. I didn't know it would really necessarily amount to anything, but I created that habit, who knows how long ago, a decade ago or longer. And then that led to a couple different books, just because these books that I have, catalog over 1,000 movies. I think in both cases there are over 1,500 movies from around the world. And one book looks at psychopathology in movies, so depression, anxiety, eating disorders, schizophrenia, and how all those conditions are portrayed in movies, and whether the movie does a good job or it perpetrates misconceptions, does it accurately depict human suffering. So that book is called Movies and Mental Illness. It's now in its 4th edition. And then from that, I said, well, we need a book on what's best in people, too, not only what people struggle with. And so that So my co-author Danny Wedding and I wrote Positive Psychology at the Movies, and so that looks at the 24 character strengths in movies, and it looks at positive emotions, resilience, mindfulness in movies, and so on. And we could go on about movie examples. One that from Italy that I think is one of the greatest movies ever made, that many people will be familiar with, is called Life is Beautiful. I think it's La Vita è Bella or
La
something.
vita è bella.
And Life is Beautiful is the Roberto Benigni movie, which the lead character does kind of the unthinkable. He's in a concentration camp and is able to bring a sense of humor and playfulness and creativity to be able to shield the atrocities and the horror from his young son, who's also in the concentration camp. And it's just very tastefully done and beautifully done, and it's funny, it's deeply emotional, it's upsetting, it's pleasing, there's so many positive qualities to it. But ultimately it's inspiring, and ultimately it does what I think of that movies should do, which is create cinematic elevation. Is a phrase, cinematic elevation, which means to bring about in the viewer a sense of not only the tingling feelings of inspiration, the warming in the heart, but also a motivation to do good. We watch this movie, Life is Beautiful, and then we're motivated to use our character strengths, to be kind to other people, to have a little bit more honesty or fairness in our relationships, and so on. So I think movies have the power to really change the world if we were to really consistently create them the right way.
It's funny, like there is the Italian Film Festival at the moment here in Melbourne, and I went to see the opening night, and I think I highly recommend this movie to you and to everyone, and it's called Perfect Strangers. It's the first time I go Perfect Strangers. I go to the movie for 90 minutes and I just laughing all the time, like no stop, like unbelievable, like
That's interesting. I've heard of it, but I've not seen that. So, in addition to humor, what would you say is going on in the movie from a positive psychology lens? If you were to put on positive psychology glasses, what would you say are the main themes or character strengths that inspired you or that you enjoyed?
I will go outside the 24 character strengths, but I will add another one: is naughtiness.
Naughtiness. Okay.
Yes. Yes. I don't think it's included in the 24 strength. But
well, I see that as playfulness. Actually,
playfulness.
There could be
yes, exactly. Sorry. Yeah.
Which is humor,
yes.
But yeah.
It definitely is lots of playfulness. It's funny. So
yeah.
Ryan, if we should conclude this way. If you want to give one piece of advice to the listeners, what would you say?
One piece of advice? It would be to follow what self-help gurus have said for decades and what positive psychology research is finding to be true. And that is to bring forth the best parts of you for two reasons. One, to express yourself authentically, so being yourself, being who you are. And two, to express more goodness into the world. So bringing forth the goodness that comes from your strengths, but also bringing forth that goodness that benefits other people, that benefits your company, that benefits your school, your city, your country. So those two things, authenticity and goodness, coming from our character strengths expression.
What can you give away? Is anything free that you can give away to the public?
Yeah, well, on the VIA website, we really pride ourselves in, as a nonprofit organization, really putting forth resources out there into the community. I mean, that's one of the things we've been doing since VIA has been around. So obviously people take the pre-VIA survey and get the results for free. Many people don't know this, but researchers have the ability to use the VIA survey in their studies for academics can use it in their research. Anybody that leads a presentation can get the character strengths of their group. So people can get an aggregated Excel file of all the aggregated results from participants in their company or in their school or in their subjects. They get that aggregate results of all the results of their subject strengths, and then they can use that however they like. So that's another free resource that we give to, I would say, hundreds of researchers every year, and speakers and so on. And then we know that practitioners need resources and people in the consumers need resources. So we have a number of videos that we've created or had created. We put forth a number of different practices, and we aggregate all of the research so people can see the 250 plus studies of character strengths, all with the references, all right on one of our research pages. So if you look at the VIA website at viacharacter.org, you'll see it's just this wide range of kind of free stuff, if you will. And so certainly we can have collaborations with other organizations like yours to really try to offer some materials. Like it might be linking to the VIA website. It might be posting an activity. It might be posting a video that we made, or a handout, a new study, a blog post, articles, that kind of thing. A new PDF of a scientific article. So yeah, there's collaboration opportunities, and then there's lots of stuff that we put out there already.
Well, Ryan, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
You're very welcome. It's been wonderful getting to connect with you, Francesco.